We are told in the Lord of the Rings narratives that the Ring of Power is central to the fate of Middle-earth. We are told that it offers the ability to achieve dreams and ambitions, all the while bending the user to its will. We are told that it promises the power to defend one's country, to gain parental approval, to become terrible as the dawn, treacherous as the sea, stronger than the foundations of the earth. And yet in the foreground of the story, we only see it bestow one power when worn: turn people invisible. Why? Well, to understand that, we will need to understand the ring's true potential and danger, as well as the nature of Lord of the Rings as a setting. There's something about magic that I'm surprised doesn't get talked about more, which is how it differs from technology. Magic can accomplish goals in a narrative through ritual, speech, and other processes. Often these actions overlie some kind of magical system. Now, magical systems can be interesting to engage with, or to even think strategically about. Yet this obscures the fact that as long as magic exists purely at the level of system, then it's only some other kind of physics, some other kind of science. While this is entertaining on its own, images of libraries and experiments, for true magic, something more is needed. The difference between magic and technology is this. When magic is operating, something from inside is immediately made real. Something flows directly from your thoughts or will or emotion out into outer reality. Technology can only bring things about with layers of intermediate action. With magic, there comes a moment when all of the spells and actions give way, and a dream simply comes into existence. Now, a weaker version of this magic would be something specific and modest, something like a spell to keep rain off. A maximized version of this ability would be the powerful magic of wishing something into actuality. And if you're thinking this sounds similar to the actions of a creator god or gods making things purely by thinking them into being, then this connection was not lost on J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien's setting begins with a creation myth called the Music of the Ainur. Tolkien's narrative describes a central figure named Eru, also called Iluvatar, spinning off a group of lesser deities who assist him with forming the world. Their joint action of creation is referred to as singing, although Eru's process is sometimes also just called thought. Eru Iluvatar assigns each of these lesser deities, the Ainur, to different parts of a great theme of music that Eru is playing. Initially, each of the Ainur is only aware of the part of the music that it is assigned to. The Ainur are even described as physically blind in the earliest days, unable to even see one another. Most of the Ainur agree with and assist Eru's plan, following his music and creating their own part of it. There is one, however, who refuses. Melkor, the greatest and most knowledgeable of the Ainur, sets out to make his own theme, drawing in some of the Ainur and disrupting the music of Eru Iluvatar. It is this rebellion that forms the basis of all conflict in what is to become Arda, the material world of Tolkien's setting. Even the War of the Ring, the central conflict with Sauron and the Lord of the Rings, grows out of this struggle. Tolkien's cosmology depicts a world that over the ages is gradually setting into place. As with Greek and other world mythologies, the power of creation is slowly fading. This is why the events of the First Age and before are so fantastical. Dragons the size of mountain ranges, and continents rising and falling. This is why the events of the Second Age still seem larger than life, heroes clashing and great armies. And why the Third Age, by comparison, seems so ordinary, a transition from the mystical to the mundane. This sheds light on the ring's function in the world of the Third Age. It brings the power of creation to the present day, bypassing reality to make inward things real. The ring looks into the soul of the wearer, fulfilling their wishes directly. This is why in the main story it turns people invisible. We only see it used by hobbits, and only when they're trying to hide. We're informed in the text that hobbits' wish in stressful situations is normally to try to hide and get away. The ring gives them what they want. Gandalf originally recruits Bilbo for purposes of stealth, but in his hour of need, the ring gives him a more monstrous, a more powerful version of stealth than he could have ever accomplished on his own. As Aragorn says in the film, I can avoid being seen when I wish, but to disappear entirely, that is a rare gift. And the ring could be put to other wants as well. Gandalf and Galadriel both refuse the ring, with both admitting that they could use the ring to bring about great magics. Galadriel even admits with respect to the ring that her heart has greatly desired this. Gandalf and Galadriel both state that the ring grants power according to one's stature, and we see a glimpse of how it could fulfill a mortal lord's wishes. In a scene that's even more disturbing in the book than in the movie, Boromir partially loses his mind in the lead up to trying to take the ring from Frodo. In his rambling soliloquy, Boromir relates how he would use the ring to convince other lords to join his cause, how he would bind realms and raise great armies. This highlights how Boromir or even Aragorn may have used the ring, becoming a kind of competent, hyper-charismatic feudal lord, able to build a medieval empire like Charlemagne. This ties into Sauron's greater plan, as well as the ring's true purpose. Earlier in history, Melkor had planned to attempt to take control of the very fabric of reality, imbuing all of Middle-earth and beyond with his power. He sought to command the substance of Arda itself, but at the conclusion of his efforts, he ended up more or less bunting, placing some of his nature into the substance of reality at a lower position than Eru's original plan. Operating in a later period, Sauron followed a different strategy, seeking not to dominate the substance of Arda, but the wills of those within it. He wouldn't attempt to domineer as Melkor had. He wouldn't withhold what people wanted or threaten to take it away. He would give them what they wanted, through his lesser rings, or even if they came into possession of the greater ring. If Melkor sought to use will to control matter, then Sauron sought to use matter to control will. He would empower them to shape Arda as they desired. To begin with, this is why magic in Middle-earth seems to be directly tied to the fate of the ring. Why characters like Galadriel and even Theoden talk about the passing of much that was old and mystical with the passing of the ring. It also explains the enmity that dwarves and elves feel about the ring being held by one another. Elves and dwarves are two magical peoples whose time in Middle-earth is ending, but the ring promises them a new lease on life, but only to one group. This is why Gimli and Legolas becoming friends is significant on a similar level as Aragorn refusing the ring. It's all part of one story. This also explains the kind of magic devotion that Sauron displays throughout this story. Sauron prefers to work through mages, the wizard Saruman, the Mouth of Sauron, also the Nazgul, wizard kings from ancient days. This is also reflected in the things Sauron appears to be proud of, renaming the conquered Minas Ithil not as the Tower of Darkness, or the Tower of Strength, or the Tower of Armies, but as Minas Morgul, the Tower of Sorcery. The ring is magic made manifest. The ring is the last vestige of the First Era. It is the power of creation in this setting, the power wielded by Melkor, the other Valar, and even Eru Ilúvatar. And this innate link to magic helps us understand why Lord of the Rings is a fantasy setting at all. The ring is the last central point of magic in this setting. It is the last attempt to gain total control over Arda. This is why Sauron's quest for tyranny is intertwined with his quest for magic. If one's magic is sufficiently powerful enough, it means canceling the magic of others. Your word or thought defeating theirs. It means removing the lesser magics of everyday people. It means destroying rival mages or fully integrating them into an unyielding vision. The Lord of the Rings is a story about magical people fighting to end magic. Galadriel, Gandalf, and others giving up their own power so that Sauron's vision cannot occur. In a way, this fulfills the mission of Arrow Iluvatar, allowing a world of devolved choice and creativity. In a way, it allows later individuals to fulfill their own dreams and ambitions. This is why magic must pass out of the world in Tolkien's setting. Why Lord of the Rings isn't so much a fantasy story as about the passing of a fantasy story. The passing of the Third Age.